Hello, this is day 83 of reading one canto of the Divine Comedy every day. We are on Paradiso, Canto 16, which I'll read from the Longfellow translation before giving some quick commentary. O thou, our poor nobility of blood, if thou dost make the people glory in thee down here where our affection languishes, a marvelous thing it never will be to me. For there where appetite is not perverted, I say in heaven, of thee I made a boast. Truly thou art a cloak that quickly shortens, so that unless we piece thee day by day, time goeth round about thee with his shears. With you, which Rome was first to tolerate, wherein her family less preserves, yet once again my words being made. Whence Beatrice, who stood somewhat apart, smiling, appeared like unto her who coughed at the first failing writ of Guinevere. And I began, You are my ancestor, you give it to me all hardihood to speak. You lift me so that I am more than I. So many rivulets with gladness fill my mind, that of itself it makes a joy, because it can endure this and not burst. Then tell me, my beloved root ancestral, who were your ancestors, and what the years that in your boyhood chronicled themselves? Tell me about the sheepfold of St. John, how large it was, and who the people were within it worthy of the highest seats. As at the blowing of the winds a coal quickens to flame, so I beheld that light become resplendent at my blandishments. And as unto mine eyes it grew more fair, with voice more sweet and tender, but not in this modern dialect, it said to me, From uttering of the Ave till the birth in which my mother, who is now a saint, of me was lightened who had been her burden, unto its lion had this fire returned 550 times and 30 more, to re-inflame itself beneath his paw. My ancestors and I our birthplace had, where first is found the last ward of the city, by him who runneth in your annual game. Suffice it of my elders to hear this, but who they were, and whence they thither came, silence is more considerate than speech. All those who at that time were there between Mars and the Baptist, fit for bearing arms, were a fifth part of those who now are living. But the community that now is mixed with Campi and Certaldo and Figine, pure in the lowest artisan was seen. Oh, how much better 'twere to have as neighbors the folk of whom I speak, and at Galuzzo and at Trespiano have your boundary. Then have them in the town, and bear the stench of Aguglione's curl, and him of Signa, who has sharp eyes for trickery already. Had not the folk, which most of all the world degenerates, been a step-dame unto Caesar, but as a mother to her son benignant, some who turn Florentines, and trade and discount, would have gone back again to Simifonte, there where their grandsires went about as beggars. At Montemorlo still would be the counts, the Cerci in the parish of Accone, perhaps in Valdegrive the Buondelmonti. Ever the intermingling of the people has been the source of malady in cities, as in the body food it surfeits on, and a blind bull more headlong plunges down than a blind lamb, and very often cuts better and more a single sword than 5. If Luni thou regard, and Urbisaglia, how they have passed away, and how are passing Chiusi and Sinigaglia after them. To hear how races waste themselves away will seem to thee no novel thing nor hard, seeing that even cities have an end. All things of yours have their mortality, even as yourselves, but it is hidden in some that a long while endure, and lives are short. And as the turning of the lunar heaven covers and bears the shores without a pause, in the like manner fortune does with Florence. Therefore should not appear a marvelous thing what I shall say of the great Florentines, of whom the fame is hidden in the past. I saw the Ugi, saw the Catalini, Filippi, Greci, Ormani, and Alberici, even in their fall illustrious citizens, and saw, as mighty as they ancient were, with him of La Sanella, him of Arca, and Soldanier, and Ardinghi, and Bostici, near to the gate that is at present laden with a new felony of so much weight that soon it shall be jetsam from the bark. The Revignani were, from whom descended the County Guido, and whoever the name of the great Bellincione since hath taken. He of La Presa knew the art of ruling already, and already Galligaggio had hilt and pommel gilded in his house. Mighty already was the column there, Sacchetti, Giocchi, Fifant, and Barucci, and Galli, and they who for the bushel blush. The stock from which were the Calfucci born was great already, and already chosen to curule chairs the Sizzi and the Abragucci. Oh, how beheld I those who are undone by their own pride, and how the balls of gold Florence enflowered in all their mighty deeds. So likewise did the ancestors of those who evermore, when vacant is your church, fatten by staying in consistory. The insolent race, that like a dragon follows whoever flees, and unto him that shows his teeth or purse is gentle as a lamb, already rising was, but from low people, so that it pleased not Ubertin Donato that his wife's father should make him their kin. Already had Caponsacco to the market from Faisol descended, and already Giuda and Infangato were good burghers. I'll tell a thing incredible, but true. One entered the small circuit by a gate, which from the Della Pera took its name. Each one that bears the beautiful escutcheon of the great baron, whose renown and name the festival of Thomas keepeth fresh, knighthood and privilege from him received, though with the populace unites himself today the man who binds it with a border. Already were Gualterotti and Importuni, and still more quiet would the Borgo be, if with new neighbors it remained unfed. The house from which is born your lamentation, through just disdain that death among you brought and put an end unto your joyous life, was honored in itself and its companions. Of Buondelmonte, how in evil hour thou fleddest the bridle at another's promptings. Many would be rejoicing who are sad, if God had thee surrendered to the Ema the first time that thou camest to the city. But it behoved the mutilated stone which guards the bridge that Florence should provide a victim in her latest hour of peace. With all these families, and others with them, Florence beheld I in so great repose, that no occasion had she thence to weep. With all these families beheld so just and glorious her people, that the lily never upon the spear was placed reversed, nor by division was vermilion made. Apparently, I spoke way too soon last time. This entire canto is just dedicated to an injunction against Florence. However, it's not the usual kind. Instead of talking about how evil the Florentines are now and all the mistakes that they've made now, instead, Cacciaguida, Dante's ancestor here, speaks of how great it was in the past and what specifically went wrong. He talks about the many, many great families and great noble houses that used to populate Florence. Talks about many of them and the noble members within. He talks a little bit about the disputes that led to the split between the Guelphs and the Ghibellines, according to Mark Musa. He speaks about the intermingling of some of Florence's neighbors with it, who, at least according to Dante, or Dante's Cacciaguida, that's where a lot of the problems came from. Or, in Dante's words here, a mingled strain of men has always been the source of city decadence, as when men stuff their stomachs sick with food on food. I'm not sure that Dante believes that himself. Think about what he's advocated for in terms of the return of the Roman emperors to unite Italy, to unite, all these warring factions that cause chaos. His desire for all the infighting to be put to rest by unification under one ruler. Either Dante disagrees with Dante, or what he's talking about is more on a macro scale versus a micro scale. Perhaps on a macro scale, he believes that, an emperor, a king, a Caesar, could, on the whole, keep things from breaking out into great acts of violence, but perhaps on a more local level, which is what he's talking about here, different families coming and joining Florence. Perhaps on a more local level, he believes that it's more important to have strict divisions there. That, in the long run, prevents outbreak of strife. I'm not sure, honestly. I'm trying to figure him out, though. At the beginning, Cacciaguida has a very, 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 very fancy way of giving the date of his birth. He says how many times Mars has been seen to revolve around the planet. Mars doesn't revolve around the planet. Remember, we're dealing with a geocentric universe for Dante here, but that's what that whole little bit means. He counts the number of times that Mars was rotating or was visible since the birth of Christ. And according to Mark Musa, that puts his birth at 1091. In any case, Cacciaguida's speech here laments the current state of Florence, which is completely broken into divisions and chaos, and he glories in the past, in which there were many great noble families all living together, united and happy, presumably. That's all for today, though. I'll see you tomorrow.